Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. Go woke, go broke. That's truly the best way to describe the total box office disaster known as Madam Web, which is a Marvel Spider-Verse movie that was produced by Sony and Columbia Pictures. But before proceeding, I'd like to ask everyone to please like this video, please subscribe to this channel, and please press the bell to receive notifications. Thanks! As soon as the first trailer for Madam Web was released back on November 15th, 2023, it was immediately ratioed because of the 433,000 people that have either liked or disliked the trailer on YouTube. Only 141,000, or 32.6%, actually liked the trailer, while a much larger 292,000, or 67.4%, disliked it. And that's essentially a 2-to-1 margin against the trailer itself. Then there are the truly hilarious reactions on Rotten Tomatoes. As of the time that I am recording this video, the movie's current tomato meter score is only 13%, which is totally rotten and well below the 22% tomato meter score that the movie had a week ago today on February 13th, when I had released a video going through some of the critics' reviews that had been posted as of that date. But now that the movie has been playing in theaters since February 14th, Valentine's Day, there's also an audience score, which is currently only 56%, meaning that Madam Web is a garbage movie. And naturally, with totally bad critics and audience scores like those, the movie had an absolutely dismal opening weekend, just as I had expected it would be. So the movie managed to pull in around $15.3 million domestically for its opening weekend, though it had also pulled in an additional $8.2 million since it opened midweek to give it a Sunday domestic box office total of around $23.5 million. But that $15.3 million in domestic opening weekend box office earnings was right at the bottom of Box Office Pro's final prediction for the movie, which was a range between $15 million to $24 million, as I had reported in a video that I had released on February 10th. And guess what, folks? Since that additional $8.2 million that the movie earned during the week doesn't actually count towards its domestic opening weekend box office of $15.3 million, that means that Madam Web now has the lowest domestic opening weekend box office for the entire set of Marvel movies that have been produced by Sony and Columbia Pictures, because that was well below the former low-end record holder, 2012's Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, and its $22.1 million that it had earned during its domestic opening weekend. And that $15.3 million was also not even half of the $39 million that Morbius earned in 2022 for its domestic opening weekend box office. As the saying goes, go woke, go broke. So also as of Sunday, the movie had pulled in $25.7 million internationally, which gave the movie a global gross box office total of around $49.2 million, though that has since gone up slightly to $51.7 million due to Monday's reported domestic box office. But with that very low domestic opening weekend box office of only $15.3 million, using a range of possible average weekly drops of 23.53% to 44.3%, which are one standard deviation above and below the average weekly drop of 33.92% for Sony's and Columbia Pictures' previous 15 Marvel movies, I can project that the final domestic box office for Madam Web will likely be somewhere between $53.1 million at the low end, $69.4 million at the mid-range, and $99.2 million at the upper end. So there's a very high likelihood that Madam Web won't break $100 million at the domestic box office, but it probably won't be the lowest grossing Marvel movie domestically for Sony and Columbia Pictures, which, as represented by the green horizontal line in the chart, is currently 2012's Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, which only earned $51.8 million domestically. But the possibility remains that the movie won't earn as much as 2022's Morbius, whose final domestic box office earnings, as represented by the orange line in the chart, were only $73.9 million. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. But now that we have some actual box office data, as of Sunday's box office, Madam Web has a domestic share of 47.61%, which takes the most recent international box office data into account. And that figure is within the 31.62% to 50.32% range. That's one standard deviation above and below the Sony and Columbia Pictures Marvel movie average domestic share of 40.97%. But since it's in the upper part of that range, that means that the international box office is on the weaker side for this movie, which I find hardly surprising. Nonetheless, using the movie's current domestic share of 47.61%, I can project that the movie's final global gross box office values will probably range from $111.1 million at the low end, $145.1 million at the mid-range, and $207.6 million at the upper end. And within that range, the $145.1 million is the most likely to occur, not the very slim portion that barely exceeds the mid-range $200 million estimated break-even point. And none of that projected range even approaches the $240 million at the upper end of the estimated break-even point range. And that estimated break-even point range is calculated by multiplying the movie's $80 million production budget by 2.5 and 3.0 to account for the 50% of gross box office ticket sales that movie theaters keep for themselves, as well as the additional costs of marketing the movie and other miscellaneous costs that the studio pays above and beyond the production budget. So yes, unless something miraculous happens for Sony and Columbia Pictures, Madame Web is very likely going to flop at the box office. And I'm not at all surprised by this, given how bad the reviews for the movie are and how negatively ratioed the trailer for the movie is on YouTube. As long as Hollywood studios continue to push the woke identity politics message in everything that they produce, they're going to just keep on losing money and continue proving the saying, go woke, go broke. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.